popular models for understanding competitive advantage and strategy, whether within IT or otherwise, is Michael Porter's five forces and the generic strategies that accompany those. We often compare or kind of extend the five forces with Applegate's business model evolution. And by combining the two, we can talk about the competitive uses of IT within an industry. We won't spend a lot of time talking about Porter's models. They're so well covered in other places. But it does give us an idea of how to extend this to other areas. We see here kind of the typical presentation of Porter's five forces. Starting at the top, we have new entrants and the threat of new entrants in an industry, represented there in green. So it's not the new entrants that are that affect competition, but it's the threat of new entrants. Coming from the bottom, we have substitutes and the threat of substitutes that affects competition within an industry. The intensity of the rivalry within an industry, in the green box, is a function of the competitiveness of the people in the market, as well as the number of competitors and the relationship of substitutes, entrants, suppliers, and buyers. All of those go to affect the competitiveness or the intensity of the rivalry within an industry. Moving from the left, we have the suppliers and the bargaining power of suppliers. If there are a large number of suppliers to a relative small number of competitors, the power of those suppliers is low. But if there are a few suppliers for a particular market, the power of those suppliers is high. In a reverse but similar sort of way, buyers and the bargaining power of buyers, if there are a large number of buyers, then the individual buyer has relatively low power. But if there's a small number of buyers compared to the number of competitors in the industry, the power changes. So we look at all of these as a way of describing the competitiveness in a marketplace or in an industry. Now we extend this to Porter's generic strategies, and essentially Porter has created three generic strategies. We have the top is the kind of a 2x2 model. In the top left-hand corner is labeled differentiation. Differentiation in an industry-wide competitive scope, meaning the entire industry, means that the product or service that the company is providing is perceived to be unique by the customer. This is compared to the low cost position, which is to the right, where within an industry the competitiveness of the company is a function of trying to be the low cost provider. We take the same two strategies that are on an industry-wide basis, and if the organization decides it's going to compete only within a particular market or within a particular segment of a market, we talk about the same sort of strategies, but they're segmented strategies. In other words, differentiation is not an industry-wide differentiation, but for a particular market segment. The same thing for cost. One of the things that happens to some companies if they don't manage their strategies properly is they get themselves in a position where they're neither different nor cheap. In other words, they're not perceived by their customers as being that different from others in the marketplace, and their relative cost compared to others in the marketplace is not that low. Being stuck in the middle is kind of no man's land in terms of strategic advantage. It causes a pretty big problem, and requires sometimes pretty tough decisions by management to move either into the low cost position or differentiation position. We take a look at the model again, but in a little different sort of way, and we see the impact that IT has on the market. If we are able to bypass the competitiveness in the middle, here labeled the organization. In other words, if suppliers are able to directly interact with customers, or substitutes are able to directly interact with the customers, then all of a sudden the organization finds that it's been bypassed, and the customers are going directly to suppliers. So if the value adding activities of the organization are not perceived to be of value to the customers, there'll be a tendency to go directly to a supplier, or sometimes to a substitute product or service. If we compare the three strategies, cost, leadership, differentiation, and focus, to the particular industry element, barriers to entry, buyer power, supplier power, substitutes, and rivalry within the industry, the five forces, we can see what the particular strategy might be for someone, an organization following a particular strategy. So for example, if a company is pursuing a low cost or cost leadership strategy, their competitive position vis-a-vis entry barriers would be their ability to cut the price in retaliation to keep potential entrants out. They could also, if they were following differentiation strategy, maintain customer loyalty to discourage potential entrants, because the customers would be attracted to the differentiated product. And this matrix, the source of which is quickmba.com, provides the reaction for each of the strategies vis-a-vis the five forces in Porter's model. This becomes a very useful way of deciding what your strategy is and what your actions should be based upon that particular strategy. Porter's model is a very popular way of understanding how competition works, and from an IT angle, we start looking at this competition as a source of IT strategy. In other words, if our strategy is to provide cost leadership, then the focus of much of our information systems would be to manage down the cost of doing business. If our strategy is differentiation, then we can use information technology to differentiate our product and services in the minds of our customers. We may attempt to create binding relationships with our customers or our suppliers using IT. There's a variety of strategies that come out of this.